Hey guys, Kyle Spreedy's here again. Thanks for joining me for Decide Your Destiny Daily Dose. And today I've got Bas Tadros to my right. How you going, Bas?
Good, thank you, Carl.
That's awesome. Great to have you along. And today we just want to talk about, deciding to have your voice be heard. I think that's a really important thing, in our days, to decide to have your voice heard, have your vote heard, have your, be heard in your world. Whether it's with your family, whether it's with your loved ones, whether it's in your community. Whether it's a concern about the environment or something else you want to raise, I think it's really important to decide to be heard. And how are you going to be heard? I think a lot of people too often give up too quickly. They try once or twice to speak something that's really important to them, and there's no crowd coming. There's nobody really paying attention and really sensitive to what's coming from their core and what they want to share. And they might give up quite easily on that. Or they might not know how to communicate it as well. So I was wondering what you thought about that.
Well, it brings up a very sentimental, almost emotional part for me. When I was a child,
Yes.
I was very sensitive to the needs of animals
Yep.
and other children because they couldn't express how they felt.
Yes.
And I almost remember being a child, I don't know, I could have been 3 or 4. I can't remember exactly how old I was.
Yeah.
And almost having a tear-jerking sort of moment of where I'm nearly crying because I felt so sorry that a cat or a dog couldn't express how it felt, if it was hungry or if it was sore or if it needed some help.
Yes.
And I remember thinking, as I grew older and I had that memory, it's a very compassionate sense, and I think it's within all of us
100%.
to care enough for others and to want them to be able to express themselves.
Yes.
And I think what happens is, as we get older, that a lot of the time people suppress their feelings and they suppress their emotions.
Yeah.
And I honestly think it's almost equal, if not higher, that we have the desire to be understood.
Yes.
Almost as equivalent as we have the desire to be loved.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's a form of expression of love
Yes.
to allow others to be understood.
Yeah.
So since then, I've realized that deep within me is this desire to help others express themselves and have a voice.
Yeah.
Now, that might be through what I've done through community TV, where I've interviewed people, whether they're homeless people or they're people that want to share their concern for animal welfare, or people that want to help others in whichever way. And I developed a passion for a political party called Health Australia Party, who I'm now the #1 candidate for. So I have a vested interest to share their voice
Of course.
now. But previously, I was just helping them share their voice because I knew no other media outlet's going to give them a voice.
Yes.
Because they're a little less known, if you know what I mean, and they'd remain that way. So I gave them a little bit different, and I gave them that love through community TV, which is what community TV is about. Embracing and allowing people to have a voice.
Yes.
And then I developed such a passion that I am now part of their voice as a candidate, right?
I love that story,
It's a great story, and for someone who doesn't really love politics, I've learned to go, you know what, beside the politics, if I become elected after these elections, I can then give people in my community a voice and be their voice in Parliament, which gave me more pros rather than cons in terms of taking that step forward. So I think whilst I'm on this theme for a moment, people need to think about how they can make their voices heard. Whether they've got a story within them that they need to write, whether they if it's not a book, maybe they want to do it through art or poetry, or creative drawing or painting, or in this political theme, their vote. Because their vote really does decide the way things go. Now, I might be naive here, and maybe there is some kind of dominance at play when it comes to elections, and they could be very well skewed, or even there could be some sort of fraudulent activity that happens behind it. I don't know. I'll just say I'm naive to that aspect. But at the very least, making your voice heard by going, I'm going to decide on a particular party, and I'm going to make my voice heard through the elections, through that vote.
Rather than having a defeatist, nihilist view of going, what's the point? It's rigged anyway, or I heard that it's this way, or I heard that it's that way. Or
don't give up.
Why should I bother? It's no. Let your voice be heard. Why do you feel like that? And move towards those feelings. I think I can relate to a story when I was younger, and not being acknowledged was a big pain. I think when you're talking about you as a child, similar thing for me as well. When you're a child, you're a lot more emotionally in tune and you're a lot more emotionally receptive. So
Sure.
when you're not being acknowledged, it's really important. I'll share a story about, and this is a story that I share in my book as well. My book Decide Your Destiny that's coming out. And you know that sort of story is one of of trying to get attention from your family, your parents, and just not being able to. And I was staying in Bondi Beach in a lovely town, like country town house, and I noticed a basket of eggs on the ground, and I think I was only 3 at the time.
Oh wow!
I remember picking this basket of eggs up, and the basket was kind of
Woven.
broken. Yeah, it was woven, but it was broken apart, and so the eggs. So I kind of picked the eggs up, and I think I put them in my shirt and carried them over to my parents. And they were in a heated battle, and I think that intensifies everything else. And I was calling out, saying, "No, the eggs. We've got to save these chickens. We've got to save these birds.
Yeah.
And then I walked inside, and I dropped one.
Right.
And I was like, and all that anxiety. What have I done? All that
I
stress.
made a mess. I've broken the egg.
Yeah, and I think it was more the life. Like I've killed something. Like
Yeah.
I'm very, very hurt by that. I went in again, tried to call for them, dropped one more.
Oh no!
And then I went right up to them, and right where they were, and then I dropped the final one as I was screaming out. I was like, I'm dropping these eggs, and I dropped the final one on their shoes, and then that kind of got their attention.
Right.
And saw me, and they just saw this kid just bawling out in tears because he's just murdered 3 baby chooks.
Trying to save the eggs.
Yeah, tried to save the eggs and failed miserably and just butterfingers with it. So
Yeah.
that I think that memory is stuck, and it's so funny how some memories stick with us for a long time. And I think why that memory stuck so deeply for me was my voice wasn't being heard.
Sure.
I wasn't being heard about these eggs. I wasn't being
Help
heard.
me, help the eggs.
Yes,
Yeah.
the attention, the acknowledgement, and I think that's the big point that I find with having your voice heard is that you want to be acknowledged.
Yeah, sure.
There's
sure.
the culture of don't follow me, don't friend me if you believe in this. Don't associate with me, or I'm going to put you in that box or label you there. That's all disassociation and neglect, where
Totally.
we need to acknowledge each other
And be more.
and hear those voices.
Yeah, and be more inclusive rather than exclusive. Just
Yeah.
because you don't agree with me, I'm going to unfriend you, which is a terrible culture
Yes.
of the social media isolation.
Yeah.
And I think we need to be more about integration
Yeah.
and bringing people in rather than excluding and removing people out of our friendship circles.
Yeah. Just one quick point. That the one thing I'm noticing that's really positive is the champion of women. That I think this movement of empowering women
Great.
has come through, and I'm really I'm stoked about it. And
Glad
it's beautiful.
to see that too.
And where there was this real focus. I think it was on social media. It was a big trend for a while, and there was just championing each other and champion women.
Yeah.
And you look beautiful. You're powerful. You're you can create anything you want. You can create your destiny.
That's a trend I'm happy to get behind.
Yes,
Because I do believe in that, growing up with 3 sisters,
Yes.
having a beautiful wife, and I know that my wife is the champion of our home.
Yes.
We're raising 3 kids together.
Yeah.
And if she can be a powerful, strong, dominant, confident,
Yeah.
beautiful woman, then you basically inspire that in our sons as well.
Yes, and
So-
you communicate that so that she can embrace that voice within herself.
Yeah, so coming back to your theme of what you shared of your story, thank you for being vulnerable
Yeah.
and allowing yourself to express a memory of a 3-year-old child.
Yes.
So I just want to bring that in now that it's been shared and honor that, because I think in all of us there's this child that's had an experience, whether it was like yourself with the eggs or another sort of experience that we've all had,
Yes.
where we felt sort of unheard.
Yep.
And unheard may have at the time translated to unloved
Yes.
and uncared for,
Unappreciated. Yes.
and so without excusing, but explaining, if you like, to the inner child within Kyle right now, and the inner child of hopefully the audience that are listening in this, so we can heal the trauma, if you like.
Yep.
Is this: parents are only children in themselves, right?
Yes.
And they're only as evolved as an adult has allowed himself to heal as a child.
Yes.
And so they've got their own emotional childhood wounds.
Yes.
And so they could have been having a conflict to try and resolve that amongst them,
Yes.
and just didn't pay enough attention to their beautiful child
Yeah.
that's trying to save the chickens.
Exactly.
You know, the eggs.
Yeah.
And so I think why those moments are significant for us and why you still have that memory is it did create a need to be heard, and it did
Yes.
create. And now there's a positive and a negative in that, like everything in life. The positive is now you're going to go out into the world and express yourself with more
Yes,
vigor
with your
through
voice.
your book, through
Yeah.
your art, through your photography, through your
Yeah.
business, with your voice.
Yeah.
You know, video casts like this or podcasts like this,
Yes.
sharing the message with people, helping people, caring for people.
Creating that community where we can all help each other.
Absolutely. And being a champion of the people,
Yes.
like you're seeing the champion of the women, or
Yes.
you're the champion of people being heard and healing
Yes.
through their childhood traumas.
Exactly.
And so I can relate to that
Yeah,
in many
of course.
ways.
Yeah.
And I'm sure so can your audience if
Yeah,
they're watching
definitely.
this.
Yeah.
And so the key is to not only forgive the parents through that experience, but to forgive the child through that experience.
Yeah.
Because the child may have only taken away from it what they could conceptualize,
Yeah.
which is, hey, I'm not being heard right now.
Yeah.
And if you could look at it from the perspective, somewhere somehow you were being loved,
Yeah.
somewhere somehow you were being supported,
Yes.
and it may have not have been apparent to you
Yeah.
and in that moment by your parents.
Yeah.
But I'm sure, you know, if we can expand your memory going into a quantum phase,
Yeah.
if you could just imagine probably after the dropping the third egg, they would have
Definitely.
embraced you. They would
Yeah.
have loved you. They would have paid
Yeah.
you that attention.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we just hold the moments of traumatic effect, the dropping the eggs,
It's holds strong in our memory. It does.
and we
Yeah.
forget like that
The other
straight
parts.
after that. They
Yeah.
were kind and they probably helped you clean up.
Yeah.
And probably mended the, you know, woven basket.
Yeah.
And my intention in sharing this last bit of the story is to try and help mend our own wounded hearts when we go through those traumatic effects.
Yeah.
We still carry the child that's been affected by that.
Yeah.
So the moment you heal him instead, you
Yeah.
come at it from a place of I'm a healed
Yes.
person through that experience
Yeah.
rather than a wounded person through that experience.
Yeah.
And I hope that helps.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one thing that I've noticed that has really helped that, along with your communication and you know, and taking that apart, which is a part of the whole healing, is writing it down. You know, writing that book.
Oh, totally. Journaling.
Editing it, writing it down. And yeah, I would say for anyone just to journal those things, journal the pains, journal the things that remind you. You know, why does that memory come in? Write it down and then take it apart, and you can understand. Yeah, and you can start hearing your inner voice. You know, because I think that's the real important thing. Your inner voice. What is that inner voice communicating? Why am I still getting upset about this? Is there something that's attached to it? Is there a pain attached to it? Is there something I haven't addressed? Is there something that I haven't resolved? Do I need to pick up the phone and call that person?
Yeah.
What's that inner voice saying? And work out what it's saying.
Totally. There's a huge power in that. Sitting
Yeah.
with the moments of discomfort
Yeah.
in order to allow the inner healing to occur.
Yes.
And I think the deepest and best of healers are the people that have been hurt
Yeah.
because they've learned to heal.
Exactly.
And when I say healers, like we're all healers. If you scratch your paper, cut your finger,
Start healing. Yeah.
you heal,
Yeah.
right? You don't have to do any special procedure.
Yes.
It's just your body's own natural way is to heal.
Yes.
And it's the same for emotional trauma, emotional feelings, psychological, mental, any
Yeah.
of those things. You have the ability to naturally heal.
Yeah.
The issue is the modern day people think that I need some external substance in order to
Yeah.
help me heal.
Yeah.
But you don't. You've got all the internal intelligence of healing within you.
Yeah.
But what you do need to do is sit with that moment.
Yes.
And it could be through journaling, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
or it could be just allowing yourself to sit and process, share the story,
Yes.
and allow the process. And that's what we did in tribal days. Around the campfire, we'd share the story,
Yeah.
and we'd heal together. In
Yes.
fact, shamans are storytellers.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's
Exactly.
about learning to understand that and weave our own medicine through those baskets
Yeah.
that hold life together, holding the egg. It's such a powerful story because the egg is such a symbolic
Exactly. Yeah.
symbol of life.
Maybe that's why it's stuck. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's also telling you are the master of your own destiny, decide your destiny,
Yeah.
because you could look at the shattered life or you could look at creating new life
Exactly.
and honoring and
The lessons are taught.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've loved this session of Decide Your Destiny.
Thank you. Thanks for coming along. I really appreciate it. And I think
Thank you.
you know the inner voice is such an important thing. You know, when you're talking about healthcare and when people neglect their inner voice, they start turning to different sort of things that are abusive to themselves when they're neglecting to that voice. Maybe I'm not good enough, maybe, and not sitting with that. And I think it's important to sit with that and work with it and do some healing for yourself. And I would really suggest journaling, voice memos, communicating is a big one, which we've done, we've chatted about before.
Yes.
And really listen to that inner voice.
I totally agree. And I think this is where all the healing happens, listening to that inner voice rather than neglecting and trying to take some form of addiction.
Yeah.
Because most addictions and substance abuse starts from looking for something to numb the pain or to help you forget or to help you cope.
Yes.
And then it becomes a habit or an addiction.
Yeah.
And even the biggest addiction at the moment that people even overdose on is painkillers.
Yeah.
Subscription painkillers.
Exactly.
So if people could face things and deal with those things and clear them, they'll heal and be a better person rather than the substance and then having the substance abuse or the side effects, etc.
Yeah, and you have all the greatness within you to heal, and the greatness within you to go through that pain and come out a better you and a more empowered you. That painkiller, and I've had extreme painkillers, in the past when I've had surgeries, and those painkillers, yes, they feel kind of interesting and oozy and relaxing and all that sort of stuff, but they don't make you a greater you.
No.
They're short-term things, and I always think long-term. Always trying to think long-term. If I can work through this pain, if I can, and sometimes you do need to take painkillers, I totally understand that, but if I can work through this pain, listen to this voice, try and pay attention, work out why I'm feeling this way, then I can become a greater me, not just in that moment, but for the future.
Totally.
And that's where the real power is becoming your greater self. And that's what we're talking about here and what we're talking about with Deciding Your Destiny. So I hope you guys take a lot away from this video and really enjoyed having Bass along. It's always great to have you along and have a chat.
It's jam-packed with goodness.
Exactly. I love that. Jam-packed with goodness. That's going to be the little slogan down under.
Good.
Now, awesome, guys. Now, if you wanted to follow Bass Tadros,
BassTadros.com is the best way to find me.
Beautiful, great. And you can see all the great stuff that he's doing to kind of speak his voice forward and speak the voice of his community and the community.
Yep.
And if you guys want to keep following this channel, Cast Breeze, you want to leave a comment down below, let us know what you think, let us know what challenges you overcame to kind of express your inner voice and what your inner voice means to you. And we'd love to hear, and as always, we just wanted to build this community.
Stay inspired.
Yes. Thanks, guys.